Soul family, welcome to the fashion show red carpet event for this month of November 2021. My name is Christie Ramirez and I'm your soul coach. I'm also a motivational speaker and a marriage and family therapist. And today I come with a special theme for this month's fashion show, which I always dress up with the fashion, right? And the wardrobe always has a significance. Now I want you to all guess what exactly I'm dressed up as today, the vibe, the era, and it's the 1920s, inspired by the Great Gatsby. The story of the Great Gatsby is also in movie form if you haven't watched it or you haven't read the book. And that's what we're bringing into this month's theme, which is spiritual maturity. This is a show where we always gather to talk about the spiritual journey, where we're at collectively on our way to ascension. And this month's theme is spiritual maturity. Last month was all about spiritual ascension, the beginning stages and even symptoms of the spiritual ascension, this inner transition and transformation that was happening to make our life better. And now we are at the maturity level of it. But spiritual maturity is just a whole different level than emotional or even mental maturity, and especially physical maturity, right? Because again, age is just a number. You can be old, you can be young, you can look older, but you can have a brain of a child, right? The point is that age is just a number. It's our soul that counts, and that's what we are seeking to mature today in today's gathering. So I brought my notes. I always bring a channeled message, and I also first want to clarify some changes that have been made to the show. So I began the fashion show in February of 2021. It's going to be a whole year series, and I began it alongside with cake designs, right? And of course also with the fashion wardrobe. But now we're going to just do the fashion wardrobe, and there's going to be a symbol that I draw along with the channeled letter that I always come and speak to you all and deliver, should I say, from God to us. We're going to have a symbol now that's been drawn out by myself. And the cake designs are part of my health and wellness brand now, Body, Mind, and Spirit, where I show up with my Christie's Divine Creations, which are my cake designs specialized in plant-based and specialized according to the month's theme as well. So we just go into the artwork. It's more art class in the kitchen kind of activity. And so I've separated the two now because I feel like now it's time to go the separate ways, right? Now that both of them intermingling are not going to work well together, okay? Because I feel like it was just too much trying to get those two things done at the same time, and where's the cake here, right? So I want to just keep that aside in the kitchen. I'm not going to bring a cake into this wonderful glamorous room, right? We're going to stick to just the fashion because I feel like I'm really creative with fashion. I love fashion. I love designing fashion. And I feel like the wardrobe in and of itself is going to speak for itself for what the energy is. So of course I am going to bring in the theme for today, which is spiritual maturity. But today's message, believe it or not, is 7 life lessons that we are to bring with us on our spiritual journey for the rest of the journey. Because remember, we are climbing a God mountain, and this God mountain is like the alchemist embarking on his journey. And it's not something that's just from here to there. It's a long journey, and sometimes even a life work of journey, right? And there's many life lessons that we can speak about, but I'm going to bring in 7 specific ones that were actually the moral of the story behind the Great Gatsby. It's a very great story that I really suggest you all watch, because this is based on a man who, it was based in New York City in the 1920s. And this man, lived a life that obviously there was his friend that wrote his story about him after his death. But at the time of his funeral, no one went to his funeral. Okay, so that just tells you that he did some things out of accordance in his life to not have anyone show up to his funeral. Okay, and these are life lessons that it teaches us why we should always be a good person, always be honest and authentic, and even in love, approaching love the right way, because he didn't, and that's why he also lost the love of his life. and she ended up marrying, or should I say staying married, with this other guy that she also loved, but again, it was a different kind of love, right? But with this guy Gatsby, he had a funny way of showing it, right? And it wasn't concrete. It wasn't literally like he was offering her something like a new life. It was unbridled passion, which we're gonna talk about one by one. So I guess we can bring it up. I guess let's go for topic number one. But let me first take a sip of coffee. Unbridled passion is not always a good thing, right? Because this is passion that's misdirected and unfocused even. Unbridled passion is a passion that can even take over you, right? Like it can come in line with like infatuation. And this is what we learn about in the love show. We learn about spiritual love, something that is solid, that is able to manifest into something concrete for the long term and able to bring in the mission together. But for this case, Gatsby and this woman Daisy, who he was in love with, what was the mission in that relationship that they were having? First of all, they approached that relationship very miscorrectly. They were having an affair even though she was married. And that's a bad start, right? And we all know this, obviously, because anything started off as an affair is not going to end well. Because that's like bad karma, right? It's the wheel of fortune. What comes around goes around. And basically, he got bit in the butt, you could say, because he, knowingly that she was married, still went after her. And it should have been approached a different way, right? First of all, maybe just a friendship, or actually asking for a new life. And the thing why that couldn't work at that time was because he was poor and she was married to a rich, wealthy man, right? A socialite. Because in the 1920s, this was an era of socialism. And who was the most highest in the social class were the ones on top in society, right? So again, society was everything there. And this is something that I've actually been connected to even before I watched this movie the other night. Socialism, social conditioning, and how if you really want to be spiritually aware and reach this enlightenment, you need to be able to detach yourself from society. That's actually what we did touch up on the weekly poetry class as well. Even poets touched up on this topic. So you can just imagine the truth behind this, that society is but a masquerade, literally. I mean, me dressing up here obviously is kind of like also a little metaphor, that just because I'm dressing up all glamorous, does it really prove that I am glamorous or that I am wealthy, right? Because people can dress up that way. And that was the mask that people wore in those days. It was supposed that by what you wear or what you have or how expensive your car was or your home was meant that you were somewhat of a better person, right? But that could be further from the case, because that's what Gatsby believed. And he actually believed that that was what's going to win with Daisy's heart. And it actually ended up repelling her heart, because he went like too much the extra mile in the wrong direction, right? He went all out and like throwing these wealthy parties with, how do you think he got the money, right? He was a bootlegger, meaning it was illegal stuff that he was doing to get that money. And that did end up as well paying back for him in a negative way, because that's what he was known for. And that's one of the other life lessons, that sometimes the past can be hard to escape if it's really bad. You know, there's such a thing as making mistakes that can be forgiven, like what we do learn in A Course in Miracles. But there are things that you just can't take back, and they're going to haunt you forever, right? And that's why we need to learn to make wise decisions on our journey, because this is the reputation. Gatsby earned a very negative reputation by the end. And that's why nobody showed up to him, because nobody respected him, his character. And not even Daisy was willing to protect this kind of love, because at the end of the day, she probably realized it wasn't even love in the first place, right? Because if you're needing to hide something away through an affair, that's not love, right? If we take the story, for example, like the most romantic story of our lifetime, which is The Notebook, they didn't have an affair, they had a separation, which means they didn't see each other for that period of time. And they did have different relationships after, because they weren't in each other's life. The movie Serendipity as well, they were separated, they were not having an affair. And that's very different, right? And that was actually the theme for November, serendipity. that separation and affair are complete different things. So that's kind of like what we're touching on. That's a life lesson to learn, right? Because that's immorality, and God always wants to be moral on our journey. Remember that we are walking representations of Christ, of what God represents, and that's how we are to act, right? So that was one of the first lessons that the Great Gatsby taught us. The other lesson was about optimism. Optimism is always a good thing, because that was the great thing, I guess, a good quality about Gatsby, was that he was very optimistic. He was overly optimistic, that he believed that if he kept pushing and kept throwing these extravagant parties where everybody in society was invited in his big house, right, that he would win Daisy's heart, and that she would even show up to that party, because she never did show up. And that was the thing, right? They had met many years ago at one party that wasn't his party yet, because he was poor in that time, but he was dressed up as if he weren't poor, and that's why he made it into that socialite party. And that's how he met her, and right away he tried to conquer her heart, and she did fall in love with him, right? Because it was like a chemistry, it was just like a different, he had a lot of charisma, versus her husband was more strict, and he sometimes didn't even know how to really show his affection towards his wife. And so that's what kind of pulled her apart emotionally and made her go into this other man's arms, right? And that was a good quality about Gatsby, was his optimism, that even though, you know, all these negative challenges were being thrown his way, he never gave up. And he did eventually get what he wanted, but it didn't mean he did it the right way. And then again, that's where the repercussion comes in, because it was very clear in that movie and in the story that there were things that were illegal that he did to get that money, right? Like a bootlegger is something very negative, right? So eventually it really didn't pay off, because trying to mask something that you're not, what's the point in that? Because at the end of the day, you're going to be feeling empty within, which he actually was empty. He had nobody in his life but this friend of his who he asked to follow him. But even then, like, he was loyal to him, but sometimes he even got annoyed of him, because he knew that he was just falsifying his whole life. And that can be very annoying, right? Because everybody wants to be around genuine people. And so he was very, like, he probably had mental issues as well, because as I was looking at that movie and really analyzing his character, he had a sort of like impulsiveness to him that, you know, he definitely could fall into a category. I'm surprised he never went to a psychologist, but his friend ended up speaking to a therapist after the whole death and funeral, because it was too much for him to handle, right? He didn't want to be part of the story, but it was Gatsby that kept telling him to come in and be with him, and even also be with him when he was to meet Daisy, because he was embarrassed. So that just shows you that he had self-worth issues, and he didn't think he was good enough, which is why he went and did all those crazy things in his life to try to win her heart through money, which is lesson number 4, that money can't buy you love, and not even friends, because it really didn't. It only ended up ruining everything, and he ended up dying in the process, right? So he thought, and I feel like, you know, we're to feel empathic towards Gatsby and compassionate during that era and time. That was really what was promoted, right? It was like the thing, like you had to be in this group, which was very excluded. It was the socialite, the top of the top, or you were not worth anything, right? You were like poor and just like on the other category of life and of the people. And so she was part of the socialite group. She was rich and wealthy because she was married to this rich and wealthy man, and she did come from a good family. So of course she was like unattainable to him in a way, in his eyes. That's what he told himself. But I believe that if he would have approached this the genuine way, in the correct way, he could have won her love without all that money and extra show that he did, right? Which was all those parties that he hosted that he didn't even have fun at, and he barely attended, to be honest. He was always in his room looking out the window waiting for Daisy to come. So it was like a waste of a life in a way that Gatsby lived, right? And the only thing that kept him going was this unbridled passion for Daisy, this woman that he'd met many years ago and was out of his life during that time. But the affair wasn't really shown in the movie, but they did say and explicitly say that they were having an affair. So he admitted it to her husband, and he lashed out, right? Which he had a very low temperament, his husband, very impulsive, and so did Gatsby, right? He did lose his temper at one time, that he was almost about to very much hurt her husband, and that's what kind of like turned her off and actually made her afraid of Gatsby. And that was actually one of the last few times that they ended up seeing each other, until like the very end when something happened as well, which was another lesson number 5, that, you know, not only looks are deceiving, but also we all know about assumptions, right? Never to assume, because remember at the end there was the Daisy's husband had a mistress, so of course we all know that she wasn't being respected and honored, and back in the day that was normal, right? And even in between kings and queens, every king had their mistress. So we can just see the corruption in the hierarchy here and the dynamic between gender. So okay, so this lesson that at the end they were driving a car, Gatsby and Daisy. Daisy was driving Gatsby's car, and they run over this woman, which actually was her husband's mistress. Of course it was accidental, because she kind of like just lashed out in the middle of the street. And then the assumption to the very end of his death was that Gatsby was that one that killed her. And Gatsby never, of course, admitted that it wasn't him driving. But this is what just tells us, you know what they say about assuming. It's usually false rumors. So never believe in false rumors and never engage in false rumors. And that's actually, you know, a lot of what the socialite used to engage in back in the day. Because probably they were so bored with their life trying to put up this false facade, right? That they were living the life. And that's all they did, a lot of them. You know, rumors or talk about money or politics. Things that really didn't have that much substance. And of course, you know, now for our soul journey, we know this to be false, right? And we know that the truth is good conversation. You know, what we do here in the fashion show is really substance conversation, in-depth knowledge that is going to help us on our journey, not just be a waste of words and conversation, right? So make sure that you're spending time with people who are worthy of your conversation and have something nice to offer, you know, because that's what you're going to surround yourself with, and that's what's either going to fuel or drain your potential to keep going on your spiritual journey. And so let's just read over these life lessons now in order. So it's 7 life lessons for your soul journey. Optimism is a noble if futile trait, so creative temperament, right? Staying positive and being even creative with that positivism, keeping the hope and faith alive. Number 2, money can't buy you love or friends. Number 3, unbridled passion isn't always a good thing. 4, it's not easy to leave your past behind you, especially if it's very intense. So make sure that your past is clean and don't do anything in your present moment to create a dirty past, right? Number 5, don't critique others, but rather be empathic and open-minded. Of course, we all know this about judging, right? God is the ultimate judger. And this is a lot of what the socialites did with rumors and gossip. They critiqued others. But at the end of the day, they're just critiquing themselves, because that's a mirror reflection of what's really going on within. It's called projection. Number 6, physical beauty is fickle and fleeting. True beauty radiates from the inside out. And we see this because Daisy ended up not even choosing Gatsby. And not because, you know, he was more in love with her physical beauty, to be honest, than with her true nature within. And maybe he portrayed that he really did see her. But truth be told, I mean, they mentioned this because I read the whole paragraph about this. But that's the first thing that he fell in love with, her physical beauty. And we all know that true love is a soul-to-soul connection. It's more than just the physical outer beauty. And again, also, physical beauty is fickle and fleeting because it's not about how beautiful the person is as well. We talked about this in the love show for November, because beauty radiates from the inside out. So if you see someone for their true soul within, you're going to see their beauty on their flesh for what you see inside. So seeing through your spiritual eye, I feel like Gatsby wasn't seeing clearly during this time, because this woman didn't really, sacrifice either. He sacrificed everything. I mean, that was one of his good qualities, right? He sacrificed everything in his life. And even though he did it the wrong way, he did it out of love and out of passion. But again, it was just more unbridled passion, right? And yet she didn't appreciate this in a way. That's what I'm seeing here. Because physical beauty is fickle and fleeting. Because, also, aging, but more than anything, I feel like she didn't choose true love. Because if it was true love, she chose money over love, right? She chose her husband, who she did love, but it was more of like a caring kind of love because he cared for her. And he was literally caring for her financially. But was it really true love? So she ended up choosing money and social status and stability over true love. So that was one of her karmic lessons, right? And his lesson, Gatsby, I guess, obviously was that he should have offered something, a life to her, because that's what she needed, right? And maybe he didn't have the means to do that, but maybe they could have done something together. And maybe she didn't even believe in herself. She didn't have the courage to discover her own potential and talents. And back in the day, this was not something that was normal or even incentivized for women, right? Women were very submissive back in the day. So obviously now in the modern era, this is no excuse, because women are very independent now. Women have a career, and this is again something that we're learning in my Woman Forum Empowerment Show series, which is an exclusive show on my Spiritual Counseling TV network, really helping to empower us women and divine feminine to find our power, take it back, and find true love, because we don't need a man to take care of us, right? So basically, we don't need to settle for something that's less, and now we can find the real thing. And this is part of the revolution and evolution that our whole era is going through. We are now allowed to experience true spiritual love because there's no social constraints or karmic lessons even standing in the way, because this is like ancestral karma in a way, right? Generational karma of how women and men were treated and their status and the hierarchy and just the gender stereotype behind both. So all of that is gone, because that's no more. We're in the modern era. So that is no excuse to feel those kind of self-worth issues as a man, right? Being able to provide for their woman, and the woman choosing someone to take care of her because of money, because she can make it on her own. And the man knows that they can do it together. It doesn't have to be only him being the breadwinner, right? So now it's like a power couples dynamic that can happen and is possible. So that's beautiful. And then number 7, you know what they say about assuming? It's usually false rumors. So stay wise, stay alert, and stay in your truth. Love, Christie. And this is the symbol that I came up with for spiritual maturity. A red rose, very plain and simple, because this rose is teaching us passion, rebirthing of something new, bringing even stability. We have a lot of red roses back here because red is the color also of the root chakra, and it is about financial stability, feeling safe in this world. And these are these lessons that we can take with us to feel safe, feel protected, and know that we are on the right path. Keep walking solidly, strong, grounded, centered, knowing that all is well. God has got our back. And that's a beautiful, beautiful message for November. And because I didn't do one for October, I do want to bring it in today. The symbol that I came up for spiritual ascension for October 2021, I did put the crown. I put a little emoji on my post because it is about the spiritual ascension, right? Ascending into royalty, into divine royalty. So I do want to read this message that I wrote the other night for all of us today from God. This month is all about evolving out of our ego selves to experience spiritual ascension. As we ascend on an individual level, we ascend on a collective level, and hence Mother Earth raises her vibration. We're being guided to vibe high, as this is the only ticket to this high vibrational portal leading to the golden gates of heaven on earth. Are you ready for this intense transition? The 1010 portal, which was October 10th, has sealed major cycles in our life, only to open new ones. Remember, God doesn't close doors without opening a window. And I see a white dove outside this window inviting you to this higher realm of elevation through surrender and letting go to experience the elation and the ecstasy of spiritual ascension. This is true bliss, and we are being guided towards this new and different higher path. Yours truly, Christie. And that's a beautiful message for all of us today, because it really, really puts this on paper in words, what this whole energy is about, right? It's been very confusing for many people, but it is possible. Spiritual ascension is possible here on earth. Remember that it is just basically matching our frequencies to the higher frequencies of higher consciousness. That's basically what spiritual ascension is. A walking enlightened being on earth, and then transmitting this information to others, awakening others on our path. We awaken others just by our presence, by our touch, by our smile, by our words. We touch other people this way. And remember that touch doesn't always have to be physical touch, but just by our energy. We touch people by our words, by what we transmit, right? And that is the message for us light workers, is keep transmitting this love and light, because the world needs us. The people are waking up. It's like I see like a whole world of zombies waking up from their slumber and finally seeing clearly through their spiritual eyes, removing the veil of illusion, the fog that has been clouding their judgment, and now seeing through the spiritual realms, seeing that we are living in a spirit world, not just a physical world. It's both intertwined. And that's why things happen in the physical realm, because it's first happened in the spiritual realm. What happens in the physical realm is a mirror reflection of what's happening upstairs in heaven on the spiritual realms. So this really helps us to live life more aware, and also, you know, staying true to ourselves, which is a spirit here on earth for the God mission. So I will bring in an oracle reading today. We don't always do this, but today I'm being called to bring in some fun. This is what they used to do. This is what they used to do as well in the socialite times. They used to read cards, they used to play cards as well, and you know, they used to gamble a lot, poker and all that things, right? So we're gonna do a little bit of fun of that, and I'll be right back. All right, so we are back with some cards here. So we're going to get spiritual guidance for the spiritual maturity energy that we are being guided to work on this month. So I'm going to begin with the in-between tarot, because we want to start reading between the lines, right? This is always what we are guided in life. And we are going to get also the classic tarot. These are my favorite to work with in this show, because I feel like it really taps into the esotericism, to truth. It's just really powerful and in-depth. So these are beautiful, right? And let's see what God wants to tell us today to help us to strategize. I'm seeing even like a chess game, which kind of is what this image here looks like big chess pieces, kind of like in the Harry Potter movie, right? The chess actual game turns into real life. It's like a real life chess game. This is what we're all dealing with. This is what we're going through, and this is what spiritual maturity teaches us. To be able to see with strategic eyes, right? Be able to be aware of what's in line with our spiritual truth and what's not. And being able to think the most craziest of things, because anything is possible, right? Many people, you know, get in trouble because they're actually naive. And other people are in the other extreme that take advantage of that innocence, right? And that's how life works. It's like the sharks and the fish. And this is part of spiritual maturity, seeing things for what they are, and not being deceived by what the physical flesh shows, or what you see even as an image, or is portrayed as who this person is, or character, or even a situation, right? Like social class. Like just because a social class is to be more respected doesn't mean it's the best, and especially not for your spiritual journey, right? So things like that, if we are to apply it to any area of your life, you're reading between the lines and you're starting to see the truth through your spiritual eye, which can really clear a lot of karma for you and help you to live life more gracefully, right? Not needing to repeat lessons, and then living actually a happy, good life, empty of any pain that is created by karmic lessons. That's the only time that we experience pain and traumas and wounds, is when we are learning lessons still, But when you've already ascended all that and are above that, because there is a point where you can reach that state where you are truly above karma, because you already see the truth. And that's the state that we want to reach, spiritual maturity. So yeah, this is us treading forward. Wow, this is, this is powerful artwork here. This is a man treading forward in a shallow water. There's a log behind him that's actually broken, and he's holding a broken knife. And then he has a fist in his hand because he's angry. And the Seven of Swords is, in the traditional tarot, represents deceit that they've been through, betrayal, having been stepped on in a way. And now they're angry about it. So this could be any one of us who has been hurt in life. Again, lack of spiritual maturity makes you more vulnerable to getting hurt, right? And now we're moving into the Eight of Swords, which the Eight of Swords, after this, we're going to look it up. But here, this man here is seeing through his spiritual eye. Oh my God, literally, he has his fingers like this on his eye. I'm telling you, what I'm telling you right now is divinely spoken. And there's a whole bunch of doves here, which we were mentioning doves. I actually did have a dream of a dove by a window the other night. And now there's a full sword down here, like it's been regenerated. And it's the true sword, because I feel like this was a faulty sword, maybe even built off faulty material. And this has been sealed by like dragon's breath, like in the movie Excalibur, right? His sword, the Excalibur sword, is different because it's been sealed with dragon's breath, which makes it the utmost powerful source of all, right? In the Merlin series. And this is what we are evolving to, truly seeing through spiritual eyes. And this looks more like a Native American, even like in Pocahontas kind of, where every shaman, every Native American that lives out in the wild are very wise because they're very connected to this ancestral lineage. And this looks like a man that's been very socialized by conditioning, right? And even brought up like it's like a Roman. Remember, the Romans back in the day were the opposite of the Hebrews. Jesus would fall more into like this category because he lived amongst the people. He was even poor, right? And again, it's not about social status because this man is poor, yet he's rich in spirituality and he's experiencing his heaven on earth. He lives very peaceful. And then this man, they're rich and wealthy, and he's probably like a knight in that army, but yet he's angry and frustrated with life. And it's very dark in this card. So that's kind of like a proof of what we were just talking about right now. And I have got into this card. Victory to the suffragettes. And again, this is like victory to the ones who are spiritually aware, to the spiritually social above, right? To the spiritual, if you want to say to the spiritual wealthy, you can say, because this is a spiritual wealthy card. So let's look up, maybe we should look up these cards. Nine of Coins, which also is about, closing cycles from the past that are standing in the way of this bridge between you and heaven and earth. Freedom, right? We experience true spiritual liberation and freedom when we realize this truth. Stop trying to chase materialism, which is what keeps people stuck in purgatory, which we learned in the April fashion show, right? Remember, materialism has a whole bunch of different spectrums to it. It can be pride, it can be vanity, it could be social class, it could be money, it could be a whole bunch of different things, lust, right? All of these are materialism because it's something faulty, it's something physical, of the fleshly pleasures, but there's more to that. There's a spiritual nature which is sacred, and that's what's going to give you true emotional fulfillment. A success from many contributions, right? Success comes. This is actually what the Lightwork University event motivational speech was about. Day 3 was about success, and that's where you're going to get more information on this. It's for free on my YouTube channel. You can also watch it on christieramirez.com/lightworkuniversity. Watch the latest event, 2022, the spiritual mission, and day 3 I speak about success. And let's look up these swords cards, because interesting that this is the Page of Swords into the Knight of Swords. So this is like a lot of intellectual energy as well, right? The more intellectual we become in the spiritual sense, when it comes to ancient wisdom, we become aware of the spiritual truth. This is true intellectuality, right? It goes way beyond science, or just, a book. is deeper than that. And that's what my School of Light's about. It's way deeper than just books. It's very much critical thinking and reading between the lines. The last ray of hope and a rite of initiation. This is what we're going through. You see, this is the spiritual maturity and spiritual ascension energy. Because we've been through dark nights of the soul, realizing that what we thought was going to make us happy, which is ego-driven, does not make us happy, and in fact has drained us and stripped of us of joy and happiness and childlike wonder. And now we are being initiated into this new world, which I did touch up on, this new heaven on earth, this new spiritual world. And it's a whole different world to learn. And that's why all the doves are guiding us in that direction, to this higher spiritual realm. So beautiful energy, because it's tying in with exactly what I just said, right? It's just, again, confirmation of why I like to bring these. So you all can see as well that this is the energy. And what we're all learning, right? Because this is what we're talking about, what we're learning on a deep soul level at these times. Because we're always learning, and that's how we evolve. That's what the soul journey is about. It's about evolution. Let's actually put this back. Alright, so I am going to bring, and again, this is also the union of divine feminine, divine masculine, right? This is part of spiritual maturity, because when these two partners reach the spiritual maturity, they can come together as a spiritually mature couple. And that's again what the love show talked about. And let's get some more guidance from these cards. And look at that, we got the Tower moment at the bottom, which is what needs to experience for this awakening to experience, right? To happen. The rite of initiation is the spiritual awakening. And that's how we began 2020. And maybe you're just waking up right now, but this is the initiation phase. And then what happens after the awakening? Most people do go through dark nights of the soul, because they start uncovering, you know, these habits that need to be let go of. They go through withdrawal symptoms, but they also realize that they're nowhere near what they really want in life, right? And they were chasing the wrong one. They were chasing the wrong things in life, and it ended up keeping them empty-handed. It left them empty-handed. And now they need to kind of like start over, and that can bring a lot of people down into depression and losing of hope. But that could be further from the truth, God is saying, because this is a chance for you to start new. It's a fresh new beginning. And so this is when you begin to rebirth, which was what 2021 was about, into your truest higher self, who you're really meant to be in this life, your destiny. And then that's where, when you finally accept everything, because acceptance needs to happen for change to happen, right? That's one of the first kind of like steps in like any step program, right? You need to accept that there is a problem. If you come to therapy, you first need to accept that there is an issue that you want to work on, and then you need to accept that you need to make these new changes for you to be able to experience this transformation that you're after. And this is what happens so that we can be thrust into the metamorphosis, which is the actual transformation and molding into this fullest potential, this spiritually mature being that we are being called to be, and what we were meant to be in this life. And then what happens after this, we'll get to see next month, right? But this is what happens, right? This is a rite of initiation here. We got the Three of Pentacles, right? Tower moment, Three of Pentacles, initiation. And what comes after the initiation? We said it was the transformation. But looking ahead to the future, how appropriate, Two of Wands. We become a visionary, but it's not enough to just stay in this crystal ball looking at the future. We actually need to make it happen, right? So this is about anchoring these visions into life. Manifestation, alchemy, being the magician of our life, literally, right? And you see that he's only holding one wand because he's leaving the one from the past behind. You need to be able to let go to experience something new. Again, I always say this, but how can something be brought into your life if there's no room in it? So this is about cleanup. Definitely, if this is you, that you have something in your life. And then, wow, we got two people on their throne. We got the Hierophant, which is divinely blessed, divinely guided. And then we got the King of Wands. And this is kind of also the marriage card. But this is about being married to the mission. You see, I love to say this because I'm married to the mission. And if I ever experience a spiritual love partnership, which I know I will, we are going to be married to the mission. You see, so you first need to be married to the mission so that you can be literally married to your spiritual partner who is also married to the mission. The mission will always be first, and it's at the center of this relationship. And believe it or not, it's the foundation and rock of that relationship. That's what's going to sustain it for the long term. You see, we're looking at long-term results here, not just something short-term that's going to just die away and become a tower moment very easily with just like a brush of a wind. We want to be able to endure a storm, right? With that partner, with that mission, with where we're at in life. Be the King of Wands, steady, sturdy, accountable as well, reliable, and gentle and compassionate, because that's what a King of Wands is. He's very merciful, open heart chakra, but yet very assertive, knows how to set boundaries, and very stable in this life, right? That's what we want. We want stability, financial stability, emotional stability, mental stability, physical stability with our partner by our side, love stability. So again, that goes into emotional stability. But I feel like some people are still tied up, maybe not seeing clearly. This is the issue for some people in the collective, or if you're feeling like you're far away from this goal, it is attainable, but some people don't see clearly. And they're tied up with situations around them that are literally stabbing them in the back, literally hurting them and making them bleed. And tied up because they are in victimhood mentality. This is the opposite of what we want. This is very low dimensional, low vibrational, 2D, victimhood, fear. You need to restrain yourself from that, or release the restraints from that, and rise high, vibe high, right? Again, initiation into this new world, because that will lead to victory if you do the work. If not, right? That's actually what day 3 was about. It was about victory, triumph, success in the Lightwork University presentation. Definitely watch it. It's going to help you to understand what this whole next year is going to be about. 2022, the spiritual mission. And yeah, this is our final guidance. First of all, know that all is in divine timing, according to divine justice. And there is justice happening, balancing as well the scales. God is the ultimate judger, right? That's why the Hierophant came in, because that's divine justice. And we just need to trust in this. This is, you know, the 11th card, which actually we just had this 1111 portal. So that's a very important portal for manifestation, alchemizing the life of our dreams, the spiritual partnership of our dreams, what we really want in this life, our dreams into reality. And so we're taking this leap of faith, the Fool, starting afresh from zero and seeing optimism in this, just like Great Gatsby, right? Being optimistic and just taking that leap of faith. We are protected, and he's holding a white rose. Interesting that it's not red in this card, because the white rose signifies, first of all, purity, innocence, but also the fresh blank canvas to start anew. And then build up this passion, bring in the red, the passion, the fire, and just jumping into this new world. We've already reached God's mountain. You see, there's snow mountains back in there. And this is us on our spiritual journey, embarking now on the spiritual world, a new spiritual life. After we've done that whole purgatory work, the next part and level of ascension is and into this new world. So as we end today's reading, you see, this is finally the spiritual lovers coming together, the twins, right? We say this, and temperance and purification is required. This is angelically protected. Archangel Gabriel, I see in this card, overlooking this connection, the spiritual journey, the Fool's journey. In the book The Alchemist, him reaching his destination, which is the dream, and us filling our cup up, the Queen of Cups, because this is what's going to keep us in our Queen of Wands energy, sturdy, stable, and happy. She's holding a sunflower. She is joyful and full of life, and then rejoicing, right? After the competition, after the storm, after the chaos, the conflict, the tension, comes, guess what? The celebrations, the harmony, the resolutions, the coming together. Everybody coming together. And this is what I feel is like the world's going through, this chaotic energy, 5 of Wands, fighting for each other, or should I say fighting for themselves, Everyone's after just for themselves, very selfish. And then now coming together to work together, collaborate to make this new world happen. The elevation of Earth is what's happening. And this is what light workers are here to do, okay? To help Earth elevate. And this is happening. So what a beautiful, beautiful energy. We got the Eight of Wands, which is about communication, but also movement forward, infinite potential. And I think also by communicating our truth, hence spiritual maturity, through spiritually mature eyes and words, we will bring about change. Seven of Cups also can symbolize, the spiritual journey. And all the spiritual workers, each having their own talent, doing different things. And this card can be interpreted many different ways. But this is what I'm seeing. This is about the dream. You see in the clouds are thoughts, and then anchoring them into reality, because this is all in the head. And it's not enough to keep these dreams, fantasies in the head. We need to anchor it. Literally put it into stone with this cup here that the Queen of Cups is holding, and make it real, make it tangible. And that's what's really going to be fulfilling. Because keeping it up in your head, and this new world, just keeping it up in there, right? Us just dreaming about a new world, endlessly talking about it, us light workers, is not going to do it. We actually need to put in the work collectively and start working on this ascension on an individual level so that it can transmit collectively and hence all of Earth. And that is our final message for this fashion show red carpet event for November of 2021. Spiritual maturity. My name is Christie Ramirez and I'm a soul coach. I'm also a motivational speaker. And I'm a marriage and family therapist. So if you want to book a session with me any time of the year to get personal spiritual guidance for individuals, couples, or family, or children, please book a session with me, christieramirez.com, to learn more. I hope that we all had a fun time today here over some coffee, spiritual conversations. Make sure that you also become a member of my School of Light to get access to our poetry class and so many more different gatherings, the spiritual book club, and classes that I teach year-round. It's going to illuminate you more about your soul journey, your evolution, your growth, and your path here on Earth, your soul's purpose. Go to christieramirez.com/school to learn more, and I will see you all next month. Namaste.